Israeli and Palestinian conception of their national identity. You can't go into a Palestinian refugee camp from Aleppo to Gaza without going into the community center and seeing on the wall a picture of the Dome of the Rock. And that's just just one thing. And you cannot have been born on this planet without knowing how the words "next year in Jerusalem" have resonated down through the Jewish communities for 2,000 years, keeping the memory of this place alive. So it's central to the way both people conceptualize themselves as nations. To make matters worse, it's profoundly important to Christians of all the many denominations. And because of the way history is involved, it is the center of profound distrust between all of the people who hold it dear. And to make matters really worse is the fact that it contains the most important of the Jewish holy sites in the world, and the third most important Islamic site in the world, and they are the same. It is the same structure. The Christian holy site is up the street, which is good luck for the Christians, but for Muslims and for Jews, the Haram al-Sharif Temple Mount is the same thing. And so you have overlapping sacred space. And that makes things very complicated indeed. I won't go into too much in detail, but just when you think about Judaism, this goes back to Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac, which took place on Mount Molloy, which is believed to be, and the stones are believed to be those that are under the Dome of the Rock, which I'll show you in a few minutes. This is the city that David chose as his capital. This is the place where Solomon built the first temple. This is where this was the place where the Jews were taken from to Babylon and suffered any number of vicissitudes. This is the place that was remembered in 2,000 years of exile. This is the place that they didn't quite get in 48, and which electrified the Western world in 1967 when they finally did take the old city and the Temple Mount. Early Christian attitudes have evolved over time. It's interesting to know that for the first 300 years of Christianity, Jerusalem was rather reviled. It would remain a Jewish city for the most part. It was where Christ was crucified. And Christianity in that stage was not about place. It was this new idea of a direct relationship with God rather than intervening through places and things and stones and the like. And its place in Christianity changed when Emperor Constantine's mother, St. Helen, came 300 years after the fact to find the holy sites, and eventually was taken to a tomb just outside what had been the walls in the Roman times, which is where the local people told her, well, this is where the executions took place. This is where Jesus would have been executed. And the finding of that tomb, whether it was Jesus' tomb or not, totally electrified Christianity in the 3rd and 4th century. And for centuries, Christians were born facing in the direction, or were rather buried facing Jerusalem, buried facing Jerusalem, so that when on the day of resurrection, they could move right on in the direction of Jerusalem. The loss of Jerusalem to the Muslims was what resonated through Christianity. The faithful attempt to try and take it back with the Crusade, which set off all sorts of reverberations which we live to today, right up until present time. It's a little known fact that the British War Cabinet in the First World War, led by the Reverend Lloyd George, was made up of 11 sons or active evangelical preachers and one person who was not. And the Balfour Declaration, which they issued, was issued no small part because of the fact that they were men of the Bible and thought that they were helping to work out the prophecy. What we don't know or understand very well in the West is the Islamic attachment. And the prophet, before he became a prophet, was like everyone else in the Hijaz in the business of trading and caravans. And I have read and have been told that he would occasionally start in a town called Basra, which is on the Jordanian-Syrian border, where he had befriended an Nestorian priest. And we are told that this Nestorian priest had acquainted him with both Jewish and Christian theology, and told him, among other things, or passed on to him the notion that while God might be omnipresent, if a human being wished to stand closest to God on this planet, the place to do it was Jerusalem. And we should know by now that for the first 10 to 15 years of Islam, when the Prophet and his followers were in exile in Medina, they prayed in the direction of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is thought to be what the Prophet referred to as the far distant mosque, is believed to be that, which he talked about. And there is this story in Islam about the Prophet arising in the night and flying to Jerusalem, where he met the other prophets, including Jesus, and worked out how to pray, and was given a vision of, if not God, something quite close to God. So this city is present at the creation of all three monotheistic religions. It is rooted in the religious consciousness of three great religious groups, and that's what makes it so complex and difficult to work with. Just a quick look at it from the satellite. I don't know if that's bright enough. One of the, what did I do? Now, I'm very bad at lasers. I'm so bad at this one that I lost it. It's on the outside. Sure. So there is the Dead Sea. There is the coast of Israel. If you've been there, if you fly in, you can actually see these mountains. These are the mountains of this Mount Nebo right here. These are the mountains of Jordan, Dead Sea, and I don't think you can make it up. The West Bank is a kind of bean-shaped structure that goes like this, and Jerusalem is nestled in between these two lobes of the West Bank. This was what the ancient kingdom of Israel, and I believe this is the ancient kingdom of Judah. And so Jerusalem, right between the two, was the obvious place for David to put his capital. So that's the geography of it. It's so small that when you fly in, you don't even land here, you can actually see the land behind you. Now, we had to, when we started to work on Jerusalem, we initially thought, okay, maybe we should work on all of Jerusalem, but we realized that Jerusalem itself, the post-1967 Jerusalem, is 76 square miles. And while it's complicated to think of it as the capital of two states, nevertheless, the fact that the neighborhoods and districts are segregated, Jews live in certain places and Palestinians live in other places, makes it possible to imagine how you could separate it with a wall or something. If you needed to cut the wall to different things, you could actually do it. So we thought, okay, so what should our framework be? So then we decided we would look at something called the Holy Basis, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But finally we decided, look, the center of this thing is that wall of the city, 0.9 of a kilometer, at the heart of it, that holds the holy sites. That's where the problem was. So that's what we looked at. So, but we took Mr. Clinton's parameters that he issued right after before he left government. He said, let's think about two states. Let's think about two capitals, Jerusalem and Al-Quds. And so our thing was, well, let's look at where the conference actually, where the conference is. So the old city itself is an interesting aerial shot. You can see the walls, which run sort of like this. These are not the Roman walls or the walls from Herod's time. These are the walls that Suleiman, the Magnificent, the founder of the Ottoman Empire, built. After the Crusades, the Muslims tore all the walls down because if the Crusaders come back and they take the city and they can hide behind the walls, it's so darn hard to evict them. So the walls actually are built in the late 1500s. You can see here the Dome of the Rock, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the western wall, sometimes called the Wailing Wall, is right along there. And I'll show it more clearly in this. It's 0.9 of a square kilometer. When we started this work, it had 25,000 inhabitants. It now has 35,000 inhabitants, largely the unintended consequences of the Israeli separation barrier that has propelled Palestinians from the periphery of the city of Jerusalem into the center so they don't lose their Jerusalem status. The population is made up of Muslims, Armenians, Jews, and Christians. The Armenians have been there since the 3rd century. Let me move on to the next one, which shows things a little more clearly. This shows the city divided into the Temple Mount around the Sharif right there, the Muslim quarter, which is there, Christian quarter, Armenian quarter, Jewish quarter. Population density in this area is equivalent nowadays to Calcutta, 4 to 5 people a room. But it's only 0.9 of a kilometer, and probably 25% of it is taken up with holy sites, churches, mosques, synagogue, this structure. So the people are really packed in there. It is very much part of the city of Jerusalem. The wall is there, but people enter into a vast number of things. I mentioned the Holy Basin. The Holy Basin is probably shaped like this. It's the area around the city, and it's the city that was a concept that the British came up with. They were trying to make it a better place, and they were using all sorts of British landscaping concepts, and they thought about a visual basin, so that the Mount of Olives is right here. The problem with working on the Holy Basin was nobody could agree what the parameters were, where the borders. And the most scientific definition we ever heard was from the UNESCO people who said, well, the ancient basin was the distance you could carry a body on a hot day and get it into the ground and get safely back into the wall before the sun went down. And it was very hard to test that. So we decided to abandon it altogether. Not hard to get a body out there, but very hard to get through the concrete. So here, this shows things. This is a schematic. It is a Palestinian schematic, I hasten to say, but it allows us to see things more clearly. So here we have the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Dome, the Via Dolorosa, which replicates the last string of Christ here. Churches always have to be there. Jewish quarter there, and then you can see the walls around it everywhere. So it's a very small piece of territory, but one that is so important and so emotionally fraught that it can be considered one of the two major obstacles to coming to a conclusion between the two sides. Just one more thing from National Geographic showing how much the spaces overlap. Here is the wall, the western or Wailing Wall. Here is the dome. Here is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Literally, and quite not figuratively, literally, a stone's throw apart. So this is where the Jews pray, Muslims pray here, Christians pray up the road about 3 blocks. So when we decided to tackle this, we had to come up with some basic ideas to guide ourselves. And the first thing we decided, having been out there a lot and talked, and big parts of our careers to Israelis and Palestinians and Jordanians and Egyptians and all the rest, was that let's figure out what they need and not necessarily what they want. What can they get by with? What are the essentials? What both sides want, of course, is to wake up one morning and find the other side is gone. That would be, if the Easter Bunny's going to bring them something, that would be the thing they want. But, so what is it that they need? That was the first thing. Second, from 2 very important Israeli and Palestinian scholars, on our first trip we were told,